regular stakeholders. We have the president in this room, some of the best and brightest journalists, both male and female in this country, who make the news, report the news, analyze the news, and I'm sure there will be a side where we have some tough questions, but the president is very tough. She's been in university administration for a very long time. And she was away, and while she was away in the US for that short period of time, she did do a lot, for the university, meeting stakeholders, having meetings here and there. And so she wants to inform the stakeholders, the media, the students, the alumni, the government, etc. So this is why we're here. We're hoping that we can wrap this up in 1 hour, so that you can have enough time to ask questions and then subsequently write your stories. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to please welcome the president. Please give the president a hand of applause. And before that, just want to acknowledge today is the birthday anniversary of the Chief of Staff in the President's Office, the former Minister of Information, my good friend Cletus. I've been able to see it. Happy birthday. I'm telling you, I love Cletus for your birthday. Madam President, the podium is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming together on such short notice. There's so much going on, and I know that my earliest desire was to come back and do the President's Hour, but we had to delay that, and we're doing this instead, so that I have the opportunity to get some information to your various audiences about things related to my presidency and related to the university. So I'm just going to begin by offering an overview of some of the things that I worked on while I was in the United States during the month of February. I know that there's been some buzz about why I was away and why I chose that time. Many of you know that my appointment came about fairly recently, and that because of the need to come here for the inauguration on January 10th, I did not have time to wrap up all of my affairs where I'm coming from, so I went back to do that. But while I was there, I also engaged in a number of activities that were directly related to my priorities for the first 100 days, as well as to some of the larger objectives for the university. So I want to begin by providing an overview of the things I did during the month of February. The first one that I want to mention is that I met with UIVA, or the University of Liberia Alumni Association in the Americas. I first met with the leadership of that organization at their invitation. I got to know the group and their priorities, and then later they held an open Zoom meeting for me to attend, where I was able to address members of various chapters of that organization in the United States. It was attended by over 50 people. I had a chance to talk about some of the priorities from the first 100 days, as well as the longer plan, and to get input from them about what they were hoping for with my presidency, what some of their concerns and experiences were with regard to the university, and really just to form a friendship with that organization. So that was one of the most enjoyable things that I did while I was away. I also had an opportunity to kick off the President's Hour. Some of you may have seen my initial broadcast that took place remotely while I was away, and I really enjoyed that. I'm so glad that the university has that venue for me to engage with the community regularly. I'm not a person that wants to be stuck in my office. I'm somebody that wants to be out engaging with the members of our community, whether that's our students, our faculty, our staff, or external stakeholders, or even the government of Liberia, or even people from other countries that are engaged in our university. It's very much about engagement. My presidency will be about engagement. I also had an opportunity to contribute to the celebration of the 74th Founders Day, and if you recall that, the theme of that Founders Day was "The Future Starts Now." We chose that theme for a reason, and that is because we are hoping to turn the page into a new era with the University of Liberia. This new era is going to be one characterized by the strengthening of our education here and making the university a place that is good, enjoyable, and contributing to people's futures, everyone who comes here. So we will continue that conversation about the future. That was just the launch at the 74th Founders Day celebration. I also had numerous conversations with units of the university that were affected by the USAID shutdown. Many of you know that the United States Agency for International Development funds many programs at the university. In fact, my own program was affected because I have been one of the leads on the Higher Education for Conservation project. And while I was here initially, the project was suspended, and while I was in the States, it was completely shut down. It was canceled. It was concluded. And that didn't just affect me, but many other units at the University of Liberia. So we had to have conversations about what to do next. And there are several lines of action now in terms of each unit coming up with a strategy to stay viable without that source of funding. Another thing that I did is I had an interview with International Focus magazine. International Focus magazine is a magazine that's pitched primarily to the diplomatic community. It has editions in several cities, some in the United States here. There's a Monrovia edition, an Atlanta edition, a Houston edition, and some others as well. So I did an interview with the editor of that magazine, and that magazine will be coming out shortly. It will be shared here when it does. I also engaged in several fundraising and friend-raising events. The University Consortium for Liberia, which you've heard me talk about before, which is a consortium of approximately 21 institutions, including the University of Liberia, but several others in the United States, primarily in the United States South, had an event at which I was able to come and make a pitch about some of the things that. One example, I've made it a priority to increase the number of PhDs within our faculty. So I asked, which amongst those institutions has programs in which they would be willing to accept Liberian faculty and even to fund them? So I have started those conversations. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to continue to make it possible for more and more of UL's master's level faculty to go and get that PhD, as long as they agree to come back here and teach and strengthen our institution. So that new memoranda of understanding with two additional institutions. One was Morris Brown College, another historically black university in the United States, and they have a certificate in hospitality management. And one of the reasons I was very interested in this collaboration is because the president of Liberia, in his arrest agenda, has that letter T that stands for tourism. And we need to strengthen our programming around tourism here at the University of Liberia. So a certificate program in hospitality management and hospitality management would help our students gain those credentials and give our university the opportunity to develop that programming. It is an online program, and over time we will induct some students for the first cohort of that program. I also had the opportunity to talk with representatives from Clayton State University, which is a state institution within the university system of Georgia, and we signed an MOU that was very broad, but over time will allow us to bring in healthcare administration as one of our programs. So our College of Health Sciences will be able to add a program that they don't currently have to strengthen their entire portfolio. So I also had the opportunity to meet up with a representative from Kennesaw State University, another institute within the university system of Georgia, who this institution has the top conflict resolution program, some would say in the country or in the world. Already they have a collaboration with our own Kofi Annan Institute for Conflict Transformation, and we had an opportunity to talk about whether in the future there could potentially be a PhD program in conflict resolution with these two very strong institutes collaborating together. I also met with the originators of the Georgia Tech Online Master's Program in Computer Science. Many of you know that the University of Liberia is one of the newest institutions added to this program, and that qualified students or faculty members seeking that additional credential are able to engage in this program with one of the world's top universities for free. So I had the opportunity to meet with the people who started and founded that program and brought it here and discuss the status report of where we are. We have, they're about to induct their first class, but because they haven't made the formal announcement, I'm not going to jump ahead of them on that announcement, but I will tell you it's something quite good and that our university has a big role. I had the opportunity also to meet with Dr. Olu Menje, who's president of Southern University, one of my colleagues. He happened to be in Atlanta. We compared notes about our respective institutions. We formed an important relationship that is very important since we're both part of the national university landscape in Liberia. I had the opportunity to visit my own alma mater, to meet with people from my own alma mater, Spelman College, a historically black women's college, the leading HBCU in the United States of America. And I asked them about their connections with Liberians, and I was introduced to people that are building connections between Liberia as well as to some who had visited Liberia for study abroad. We're thinking about how can we advance that relationship now, because I have this special relationship with my alma mater. I also received a letter from the president of the University of Georgia offering support to our institution broadly, and so I'm going to circle back with him about some things that the University of Georgia might be able to help us with. I met with Dr. Cheryl Dozier, who used to be the president of Savannah State University in Savannah, Georgia. She actually was one of the founding members of the social work program at the University of Liberia, and so she was asking me to brief her on the status of the social work program, and she was very encouraging about continuing the relationship that had been started with her. I also had the opportunity to join the Clark Atlanta University Executive Leadership Institute, which is a program for new presidents. It brings us together in a cohort so that we can share experiences, learn from each other, and problem solve together about our respective institutions. And last but not least, I had a meeting with the World Bank country representative about UL's own fisheries program. So that, as you know, we will soon be having a handover ceremony with the new buildings that were built. So I had an opportunity to talk about where we stand with that particular program and to make sure that we're tying up all of our loose ends before that important event takes place. So one last thing I'll mention that happened, the University Consortium for Liberia established a scholarship vehicle in my name to be known as the Dr. Layli Makayan Scholarship for PhD Study. So the University Consortium for Liberia has one of its main functions the collection of funds for scholarships to fund Liberian students who are studying in the United States or elsewhere. And so that scholarship fund has been established in my name specifically to reflect my emphasis on the acquisition of PhDs. So I'll stop there in terms of what happened during my time away. In terms of what has happened since I come back, I have come back and really reestablished my engagement with the stakeholders at the University of Liberia. I prioritized adding some additional campus touring time so that I can see the facilities. Actually tomorrow I'll be doing a walkthrough with some faculty on the Fendel campus, and I also prioritized creating a town hall meeting with students. From the day I got here, it has been important to me to establish a relationship with students. But because of the speed with which things have been happening, I have not yet had the opportunity to fully explain myself to students and to start the dialogue that I want to begin and keep going. And so that is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the Fendel campus in the large auditorium. And I hope that everyone who is in contact with students will encourage them to attend and bring their questions. I have some things to say and some things to offer, but I also want to engage in dialogue and hear from students. I intend to do this on an ongoing basis, at the very least once a month, more often if necessary. But it's important to us to get in a relationship so that we can get back to the business